Hey guys, it's Michael, and it's near the end of August 27th here, and I want to make a CryptoMeta episode. This is a series where I summarize all the events that's happening and make it into a collective whole. So we're going to look at crypto markets, we're going to look at the ICO space, if more money is flowing in or not. We're also going to look at mining, if it's profitable to mine still. So all this as a collective whole and how this really market is playing out right now. This is my personal opinion, so of course it's not professional financial advice. That being said, if you guys like this kind of broad overview type of analysis, do hit the like button to let me know, and of course it helps this channel grow as well. So let's take a look at the market first of all. So we're in this kind of 7-month bear market already. It's been a long time since February and January times where we saw the all-time high. And now the market cap is still dipping a little bit. So we're down to 215, 217-ish area, and we're trading sideways a lot every day. Now, in terms of the trade volume, we're still around the $10 billion, $20 24-hour trading volume. And the reason for that is because there's still a lot of exchanges, for example, BitMEX, doing leverage trading. And this seems to be having a huge amount of effect on the market. So over this past month, we've seen a lot of articles and a lot of analysis pop up saying, well, you know, we've been spotting 18K Bitcoin movement to BitMEX. It's around 114 million US dollars. And you know what BitMEX is known for? It's known for its leverage trading. So you can have leverage shorts or leverage longs on BitMEX because you want to speculate on the price of Bitcoin. And there's definitely a lot of speculation and a lot of margin trading that are being liquidated as well. So we saw earlier on this month that OKEX had a clawback of almost 420, that's caused by $420 million of shorts. So what we definitely know is that these whales are making huge bets on the market. So they're not just holding, but they're making bets on the movement of the market. And that is why there's a lot of claims and a lot of suspicion of market manipulation nowadays. That's because there are so much leverage margin at risk here, and there is also the spike movements that we see in terms of Bitcoin movements. I mean, just taking a look at the charts here, you see these huge spikes of Bitcoin going up or down, and that's most likely because of liquidated shorts or longs. And it's very likely that someone wants to control this price too. And what you see is that these huge fluctuations tend to happen over weekends or times of weak trading when there's not much organic volume. So is it doom and gloom then, now that we are suspicious of trading and now that the SEC has tentatively declined 9 Bitcoin ETFs on grounds that this market might not be very stable and might have manipulation? I want to say that the manipulation has always been around, just that we're a little bit more aware of it now. And the only way to make it go away, ironically, which is what I support with the SEC comment, Commissioner's comment, is that, well, if you have a larger market, well, it's going to be harder to manipulate. And if you catch people who are manipulating, well, that's going to be a deterrence for the future. So definitely the future is bright now that we know things are going on, we can identify them, and it will take time for this market to overall stabilize. So that's what the argument I have for a more long-term planning going through. If you think of crypto not as a sprint, but as a marathon, and if you have a dedicated strategy going forward, that's like, instead of just going all in balls deep in one order, but spacing it out, that actually leads you to be less vulnerable to manipulation in the market. Now, in terms of ICOs, we saw a decline in the value of Ethereum, and Ethereum is the main currency used to raise for ICOs. That's what the funds and the projects accept. And what we see in terms of data being collected is that the amount being raised by ICOs is dwindling. So now we're towards the end of August. This figure is kind of going down by quite sharp amounts. So prior to earlier this year, we've seen, over $1 billion raised by various projects, and that wasn't really affected by the sharp decline in the value of cryptocurrencies. If you look at it, the crypto markets fell from January highs, early January, into lows in February, but what you see in the ICO space is that ICOs really held strong in January, February, and March, and only began falling in April. And Actually, after April, in May and June, we still had very strong numbers. But in July and now in August, we can see this dwindling figure appearing where we're going down to almost $500 million raised. So these dwindling numbers have led to, say, offer of BitMEX, the CEO of BitMEX, calling Ethereum a double-digit shitcoin, that VCs holding Ethereum will dump it because, well, they have not much point investing in ICOs anymore, and also because they're probably going to be forced by the limited partners now that the kind of astronomical gains are gone. But I want to draw the analogy here with Kickstarter. So what we saw with Kickstarter is that it is a crowdfunding project, and what we see is that there's an initial burst of interest in Kickstarter because everyone was like, oh my god, this is so new, this is so interesting, and there's so many new cool projects. But then we have a phase where, well, there is some disappointment, there are projects that don't deliver, but eventually there are projects that do deliver. So what happens in Kickstarter, and what happened there is that the amount funded, so if you look at the cumulative graph here, is that the amount funded is kind of very consistent over time. So what I see here is that this is probably going to continue in a very similar way for Kickstarter and for ICO market in general. So overall, ICOs aren't dead, but it's definitely going to be much more competitive. One trend that we've been noticing this month is that FUD spreads really quickly in the ICO space. So if there's a certain weakness in a particular project, that will spread like wildfire throughout all these Telegram communities. It's just very interesting to see it play out, and I definitely feel like the only stronger teams will remain. Those teams that can manage the PR very well, the teams that can have good technology. You really need both of that, basically sales and tech, in order to survive in the future in the space. Mining is really interesting because mining, it kind of suffers a lag because early in January and February, when crypto was rallying to an all-time high, all these chip developers had major investments put into them, lots of orders for mining rigs. That resulted in a lot of research, but the research takes time. So what we're seeing now is we're seeing new chips being delivered at a time when crypto prices are dropping. So that means the rewards are dropping, but at the same time, the difficulty to mine is increasing. So if you look at this, I own the 480 AMD chip and it can mine Ethereum. And back in the day, back in January or February, the mining kind of efficiency was really high. The revenue per day was like at $4 per day on a single GPU, but now it's at 0.58. So what the trend I see here is that difficulty is still going to increase because, well, not just for Ethereum, but for Bitcoin, there's a lot more mining rigs that pre-order, like orders being filled. That means there's more machines out there, higher difficulty, but also at the same time, because the coin prices are either stable or dropping, there's less rewards overall for everyone. So mining is going to be really tough in the coming months as we still see orders being filled. Of course, in terms of dominating news, we have this whole Bitmain IPO drama. They're so big now that they can try to raise for an IPO. You can see this like kind of FUD campaigns also working in the IPO space. Just interesting analogy right here. But you can see that, well, there are people threatening to pull out, and that's making major news and making people very shaky on this Bitmain IPO. I'm definitely not a big supporter of having one mining company, so I definitely want to see a stronger ecosystem in the future, especially for Bitcoin mining. And that's it for CryptoMeta. So I want to leave on this quote where in the bull market, we tend to buy the rumor and then sell the news. I mean, you can pretty much see that during all the mainnet announcements in January where everyone was like hyping up, like look at Icon, for example, towards the mainnet launch, and then after mainnet, but the kind of reverse is true in a bear market where we tend to sell the news and buy the rumor. And you can see that with the ETFs, the ProShares ETFs, the news leading up to that was that it's not very hopeful, so people started selling the news. And then they bought back in once the news was announced. So it's kind of interesting to see that gradual increase. And definitely the strategy right now to counter manipulation is to consider this as a marathon and not a sprint. Having spaced out orders rather than going, all at once is a much better option because you are much less prone to risk and sudden changes in the market. And guys, I'd love to hear what you guys think of this current market situation. Are you guys holding on tight? Shoot me down a comment below. I'd love to hear what you are doing right now. And as always, if this video helped you get a broader picture, do share with your friends. Click that like button to help this channel grow. And of course, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. We're going to have more news updates, more crypto meta, and of course, more nutshell summaries of technology and more on this channel. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. See you guys next time.